My name is Michael Becht. I'm a professor of finance at Université Libre de Bruxelles, and I'm also the executive director of ECGI. It has really become much more difficult for investors to decide on, for example, how to vote at annual meetings. So just to give you one example, maybe from the food industry, it is of course absolutely true that corporations have helped alleviate poverty. If you look, for example, back at the 19th century, through innovation, through better methods of production and so forth. It is also true that food companies are more profitable if they sell food in larger quantities and they also sell cheaper ingredients that might not be better for your health. It's also true that it's profitable to get people hooked on certain foods, and we know that, well, through evolution and so forth, we do like sugar. And when we consume too much of it, well, it's not good for us, but it's very profitable. So if you are a responsible steward, you should ask companies to reduce the sugar content. The problem is they then might no longer buy their previously favorite breakfast. Well, you'll know what I mean. So if you bring a shareholder vote that essentially asks companies to stop putting sugar, for example, into bread, because that's what people like, because it gets them addicted to the product, that's not good for profits. Now, should you vote for that or not? Now, we've had proposals of this type being brought either through shareholder proposals or through indirect engagement with boards, and there are struggles between portfolio managers that have to maximize returns for their beneficiaries and responsible acting, namely to ask companies to not sell these products. It's not difficult to resolve this, but that's really what the new stewardship challenge is all about. Some people have argued that, in fact, investors cannot solve any of the tough challenges, whether it's in alcohol, whether it's in food, obesity, sugar, whether it is in medicine, so vaccine and distribution of vaccines to developing countries. And what they say is, well, we do whatever we do, which is what we have done, namely maximize profits, and we really have to rely on government and regulation to tell us where the boundaries are. So, for example, through alcohol legislation. Well, the problem is that there is at least, say, a history of companies influencing policymakers. And the question then is, who actually writes these laws and these rules, and are we not relying too much on government to do what needs to be done? So in some sense, that argument is too comfortable because it kind of pushes the responsibility for taking the responsible action onto somebody else, namely the government. So that's another debate that we're having today. Who is actually setting the rules? And we cannot really rely fully on governments to do it. So on tough choices for investors, probably my favorite example from this year is the shareholder proposal brought by Oxfam America at Moderna, which asked the company, which asked the directors to commission a report to study whether Moderna can and should make available its vaccine technology and, to some extent, intellectual property rights to developing countries in order to facilitate vaccine production, which has been insufficient, as we know. Now, this shareholder proposal was brought by nobody less than the Director General of the WHO. I think it is also fair to say that if it had passed, it would have reduced shareholder value. It would have not been good for the share price of Moderna. Now, did that shareholder proposal still get support or not? Yes, it got 24% support from shareholders, which is really quite remarkable for something that's actually not good for shareholder value. Now, I spoke privately to an asset manager who was responsible for casting the vote, and she told me that she had really heated debates with the portfolio managers about this, and it was not easy. And I'll not tell you how she voted, but you can just see these debates inside these asset management organizations. So again, on tough choices, when you have to make these tough choices, namely vote as an asset manager, vote against something or vote for something that is actually not shareholder value maximizing but reduces shareholder value because you have some environmental or social concern, can you actually do that? Who legitimizes you to do that? Do you have the mandate to do this? So that links back to the question, who actually gives a mandate to vote in a certain way to an asset manager? Now, before we thought we knew the answer, because we thought that the objective was to maximize shareholder value. Then it's very clear, we find out what maximizes shareholder value, and if it maximizes shareholder value, you vote in favor. Now it's no longer so clear, because you need actually a mandate not to do that. And shareholders, the beneficial owners of an asset manager, might not all agree. So how do you actually get a mandate to take controversial decisions? That's another aspect that is being debated in this greater debate on the modern stewardship today.